Hey everybody, welcome to another action figure review here on the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at two figures from the Legend of Zelda franchise. We're going to be taking a look at both Link and Zelda respectively and how they're depicted in the Breath of the Wild video game. And we're going to start off by taking a look at the overall box design that Link comes in. In the background you can see a picture of Link as well as the Legend of Zelda logo. Flipping the box around you can see a good picture of the action figure we're going to be taking a look at. And now that we have the figure out of the box, we're going to start by taking a look at the overall sculpt and detail that is on this figure. And we're going to start by taking a look at Link's face and overall head design. And for a $15 figure, I do feel like the detail that is presented here does look relatively good. I like the added detail of Link's blue earrings as well as his blue hair tie and the overall texture of the hair itself. The sculpt and design for Link's pointed ears is on point as well. And then I feel like the overall looking design of Link's face is pretty accurate too. And overall, as far as the face goes, I feel like this is a pretty solid looking figure. And there is some really good detail to be seen here at action figure scale. Moving down to the torso of Link, again, I feel like there's some really good detail to be seen here. There are a couple of belts that are wrapped around the waist of Link that have some pretty good detail to them. The white printed detail that is found on the edges of Link's blue tunic are pretty sharp and stand out really well. Moving to Link's right arm, you can see a brown arm guard that has some pretty great looking molded detail. And if you look at Link's neck, you can actually see he has an undershirt as well. The left arm has some pretty great looking molded detail as well. And as we continue our way around to the back of Link here, you can see a small pouch, but unfortunately there is no place to put the Master Sword. You can also see that there are two small silver hooks on the left hip of Link, but we're going to be taking a look at what those do a little bit later. Moving down to the legs of Link, they are definitely not as detailed as the torso, but I feel like that is to be expected, and the detail that is here is pretty good for what it is. But I do like the inclusion of having different colors of brown throughout the lower extremities of the figure, just to make it a little bit more interesting to look at as well as improve the accuracy of the figure. And overall, as far as the sculpt and design of the figure goes, I do feel like it is rather accurate to Link's depiction in the Breath of the Wild video game. Especially when it comes to the sculpted detail of the face and torso of the figure, I think they are absolutely awesome. But again, I do feel like that the lack of a place to sheathe the Master Sword is a little bit of a letdown in my opinion, but other than that, it's got some pretty good detail. Now we're going to talk about the articulation of Link, and as you can see, his head can swivel back and forth, so he's able to look left and right. There is a little bit of range of motion when it comes to making the figure look up and down, but it's really nothing special. Moving down to the shoulder of Link, you can get some pretty good shoulder flexion, but unfortunately the shoulder isn't able to be rotated outward. There's a swivel joint in the elbow of Link as well as a hinge, which allows for some pretty good range of motion there. And then as you can see, the wrist is able to be moved up and down, and you can also rotate it around. And Link does have some decent articulation in the upper half of this figure. However, I do feel like there could be some improvements in the shoulder and neck of the figure respectively. You can also see that Link's torso is able to rotate a little bit, but I wasn't able to fully rotate it around like I feel like I should. If you have this figure, be sure to let me know in the comments below if you're able to fully rotate his torso. And as I try to articulate the leg, you can see that the ball joint ended up snapping off. This is also kind of disappointing as I feel like it should be a little bit more sturdy. Now that I have the leg reattached, you can see we are able to articulate the hip a little bit. Take note that I may not be getting the full range of motion here as I was scared the leg might pop off again. In the knee there is a hinge joint which allows for some pretty good range of motion there. Towards the thigh area there's also a swivel joint so you can rotate the leg as a whole. And then you are able to rotate the foot just a little bit, and then interestingly enough there is a little bit of articulation found at the tip of Link's foot. And I'm really not 100% sure what the point of this articulation is. And overall this figure has some okay articulation, but I definitely think there could have been some improvements as a whole. Next up we're going to be taking a look at the accessories, which include the Master Sword. This is the most iconic weapon in the game, and I think that they did a good job with its overall sculpt and design, and it looks pretty good. Also included is the Hylian shield, and again it has a pretty good sculpt and design to it. And taking a look at the back, you can see there is a strap and handle to help with Link wielding it. And here's what Link looks like when he's holding the Hylian shield, and it fits into his hand relatively well, and I think it looks great. And thanks to the great looking accessories and the articulation that is included in this figure, you can get Link into some pretty cool looking poses. However, I can't help but think some of the other poses I'd be able to get this figure into if he had a little bit more articulation in the shoulder. Now that we have Link out of the way, the next figure we're going to be taking a look at is Zelda herself. And I don't want to spend too much time taking a look at the front and back of the box as it's relatively the same as what we saw with Link, which I personally appreciate the consistency with the box design. Now that we have Zelda out of the box, we're going to start by taking a look at her overall sculpt and details. Just like with Link, we're going to start by taking a look at the face and hair of Zelda. And as you can see, there's some pretty good looking detail here. I especially like the braids found at the top of her head. There's also some really good sculpted detail and layers found in the hair of this figure as well. The ears of course look really great, as well as the face of the figure as a whole. I find it to be pretty accurate with how Zelda is depicted in the Breath of the Wild game. By far though, my favorite part about this figure has got to be the detail that is found on the torso of Zelda here. They did a really good job recapturing the look and design of how it appears in the video game. And as we take a look at the back of the figure, you can see a little pouch on her back hip there, but I'm just really impressed with the overall look and design of what they were able to capture as far as detail goes on the torso. The gold detail found throughout this figure is relatively small, but it's incredibly detailed for what it is. Making our way down to the lower part of the figure, you can also see that there's some pretty good detail found on the boots of Zelda too. I really like the inclusion of these small gold pieces found on the ankle of the figure. Zelda only comes with one accessory, which is the Sheikah Slaith. But as you can see, there's some pretty good detail found on both parts of the accessory. There are some small hooks on the waist of Zelda that you can attach the Sheikah Slate to. Link also comes with these hooks if you wanted to add the Sheikah Slate to him, which I think is a really cool inclusion to his figure. I also don't want to spend too much time on the articulation of Zelda, as it's pretty much the same as Link, but I do want to note that the torso of Zelda is able to rotate around a little bit more than Link, and the ball joint found on her hip is a lot more sturdy. And I picked up both of the Link and Zelda figures at Walmart for $15 each. That means if you want to pick up both of these figures, it's going to cost you a total of $30. And I do think that both of these figures could be justified for being that $15 price tag. However, I definitely think there are some improvements that could have been made with the Link figure, but I think Zelda is pretty solid overall and is definitely my favorite out of the two. You'll have to let me know what you think of these figures down in the comments below, and I want to thank you so much for watching my review, and be sure to like and subscribe so you can catch more reviews like this in the future.